Good morning, everybody. My name's David Carney. I'm the Executive Director of the Career Industry Council of Australia. Welcome to our National Careers Week information session this morning on day 4 of National Careers Week, which today is having a look at the automotive industry, which is being brought to us by the Mining and Automotive Skills Alliance. Just before we get underway today, the Career Industry Council of Australia and National Careers Week would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea and community. I'd like to acknowledge that this morning we're hosting this session on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and I would like to pay my respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples who are joining us in the session this morning. Just a little bit of housekeeping, just to let you know this session is being recorded. If you do experience any technical issues over the next 30 minutes, we'd ask you just to try refreshing your screen. If that doesn't work, you can log out and come back in with a Zoom link that you've been provided. We will have the chat function open today, so feel free to add your comments or contributions into the chat. If you do have any specific questions for Jan at the end of his presentation, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. It just allows us to help to facilitate. As this is an information session, they are designed just for us to provide you with information. Jan will provide you with a QR code at the end of his presentation for you to be able to follow up with any specific questions that you might have with any issues that he might be talking with us about today. I'd just like to make an acknowledgement of our partners. Obviously, National Careers Week can't run without the support of our partners. So I'd like to thank our premier partner, the National Careers Institute, our major partners, Career Tools and the Unique Student Identifier, and our support partners, MEGT and Moresby. We thank all of our partners for working with us this year to make National Careers Week the success that it has been to date. So that's enough of the housekeeping and all of the advertorials. I'm now going to hand over to Jan from the Mining and Automotive Skills Alliance, who is going to be taking us through the presentation today. Welcome, Jan, and thanks very much for joining us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, what a great pleasure it is to be able to spend the next half hour with yourself and all the participants in this session as we unpack some of the exciting career opportunities. Oh, I think it's exciting, and my job is to make sure everyone else is excited. If not, then certainly by the end, that is present in the automotive industry today. I do have a PowerPoint slide to sort of guide us, so I might just quickly bring that up and then we can go from there. So let's share that and put that into presentation mode. How's that? So hopefully everyone can see
Yep,
that.
we can definitely say that. Thanks.
Awesome. So look, as indicated, my name's Jan Norberger. I've got the great privilege of being the Executive Director of Workforce Strategy and Industry Engagement at the Mining and Automotive Skills Alliance. So without eating up too much of the time, just the 2-second elevator pitch as to who OSMASA is. We are one of 10 jobs and skills councils that have been set up by the federal government specifically to help steer the direction of the vet education system as it relates to our industries, but also to influence policy and help with workforce planning for our chosen industry. So today we're going to park the mining industry left of stage. They can have their day in the light another time, but really glad to be spending a bit of time unpacking what's happening in the automotive industry and how that can lead to some exciting career opportunities for new entrants. Thank you so much. I know we had acknowledgement to country, so all I'm going to say is that I would normally be coming to you from the Whadjuk land of the Noongar Nation because I am actually based in Perth, but I do find myself in Sydney this week as part of my role, and so as such come to you from the land of the Gadigal people. So very quickly, just want to make sure that I also acknowledge that OSMASA passes on its respects to elders past, present and emergent, and just, one of the great privileges we have is to travel this beautiful land of ours and be on different countries throughout. Right, so diving straight in, and I did say, look, feel free to use the chat. I'm more than happy to try and make the session interactive. At the end of the day, I want to make sure it is informative. So if there is something that we're discussing and you don't really think that it should wait until the end, maybe pop something in the chat. I respond reasonably well to interruptions, having been a former member of parliament. So heckle me all you like. But look, the automotive industry, it's not the largest industry in the Australian economy, but needless to say, it's not insignificant either. Across Australia, it represents 320,000 workers, and it's an industry that is growing. It's projected between now and 2033 to grow by a further 10%. So you're looking at around another 32,000 additional workers that we will need to attract and train and retain um, over the next 10 years. And look, not surprisingly, that is generally linked to Australia's growing population. The automotive industry follows course in relation to as the population grows and the size of our vehicle fleet, if you like, grows. The demand to either sell, service, repair, maintain, modify that vehicle fleet, right from light vehicle to heavy vehicle to indeed even mobile plant equipment in the mining industry. This is where the demand drivers for this industry comes from. And by a side there, as you can see, we've got about 21 million vehicles in Australia. We sell approximately about 1 to 1.1 million passenger and light commercial vehicles per year. But the overall vehicle population in Australia is growing by around 400,000, which means about 600,000 are wrecked every year or come end of life. But nonetheless, the overall vehicle population is growing. It's about 380 brands of vehicles, predominantly light vehicles I'm talking about now. So Australians have some great choice available to them. 3,500 dealerships and 27,000 workshops. So the automotive industry currently is worth about $174 billion per year. And you'll just see quickly, as give you a bit of a glance of what that looks like, is about 2/3 of that revenue is generated from the sale of motor vehicles. Then about 7.3% is manufacturing. So, we're not at our manufacturing heyday anymore ever since the, large scale production of passenger vehicles finished. Knowing that obviously we used to have Holden and Ford and Toyota, but people sometimes are surprised to understand that there is still quite a viable automotive manufacturing industry in Australia. It is concentrated in Victoria and Queensland, but especially around trucks and buses, high-end engineering. So where I'll give you an example, a lot of the vehicles that end up on our shores, and especially the four-wheel drive, so like the Toyota Land Cruisers, Prados, even the Ford Ranger, will have had Australian automotive engineers working with those respective manufacturers to make sure it's suitable and appropriate for our conditions. So there's some roles there that are quite at a high-end level, at a high education level. And then service and repair, interestingly, only represents 13% of the dollar value. But as you'll see in the moment, the vast bulk of the workforce within the automotive industry actually falls within that service and repair side of things. So here at Osmaso, especially my team, we love data. We're sort of data geeks, which I guess we need to be. A big part of our responsibility is to produce an annual workforce plan. And maybe just as a really early plug, our 2024 workforce plan for both the mining and the automotive industry should be launched probably mid-June. So only in a couple of weeks, and that'll then be freely available on our website. Heads up, that's 220 pages of bedtime reading. But if you really want to get a much deeper, granular idea down to individual states, into sub-industries, what we have identified as mega trends, and including, the warts and all, what are some of the challenges, then I would absolutely encourage you in the coming weeks to just keep an eye out for that. But at a high level, there's your 320,000 workers. Look, calling it as it is, the automotive industry does need to do a bit better in regard to diversifying its workforce. At 18.4% of the workforce being female, that's probably how the community is rightly sort of pictured automotive. It's a bit male centric. All I can tell you is, on behalf of all of the stakeholders that we enjoy engaging with, they are keen as mustard and ready to support and welcome and undergird any young or mature age, woman that would like to join the industry. And it is, really pleasing to see that there are more and more support programs and specific training programs in place to facilitate that. They do vary state by state, and I didn't feel we probably had the time to go into granular detail there. But it is definitely something that the industry is looking to address. median age of 40. It might sound old, but trust me, there's other industries, including within the mining industry that we look after, that are worse. It's sort of right about smack bang in the middle. Um, Encouraging is that 17.6% of the working population is what we would consider as Gen Z. And you can see down the bottom left-hand side there, if you look at the age distribution curve, the automotive industry thankfully does reasonably well at attracting young people. And that is because the industry is very, very heavily skewed towards the vocational education and training sector. And as you'll see a little bit later, has a number of school-based delivery programs designed to allow people to get into that stream almost like a pre-apprenticeship earlier on. Whereas if we were talking about the mining industry, you'd find that a lot of those roles are high education dependent, and people then tend to join when they're a little bit older. But the automotive industry is a great industry for young people to consider if they, would like to get into a trade, looking at a non-ATAR pathway and something that is, not going away. The demand for the occupations are already here now, and they're not going to abate. And you'll see that on the following slide. And it'll also give them some real portability. If you have a look at that little blue map of Australia, again, not surprisingly, given that a lot of the occupational demand within the industry is linked to the vehicles that we all enjoy driving, and those vehicles in turn are owned by people more or less equally based on where we live. It means that the workforce distribution of the automotive industry almost follows our population distribution fairly evenly. With some nuances, and I indicated earlier, especially automotive manufacturing is quite strong in Queensland and Victoria. And then in Western Australia, for example, you start having the positive impact, I'd like to think, of quite a few automotive careers beginning to blend into the mining industry. But nonetheless, it does mean that once you are in the industry, if you were to move with your family or just want to travel, it's a highly mobile, excuse the pun, occupation that can travel with you around Australia. If we have a look at the top 20 occupations within the automotive industry, not surprisingly, at the very top is motor mechanics. Now, I will say straight away that within the industry itself, the industry has sort of stopped referring to its technicians as motor mechanics for quite some time. So if you were to jump on Seek or just in general visit some of the peak body websites, they refer to them as automotive technicians. What we're listing there is technically correct because that is how the Australian and New Zealand standard classification of occupations still refers to them. If you were to go and read our 220-page workforce plan, or at least a couple of pages of it, in a couple of weeks, you'll see that we're really calling out to the Australian Bureau of Statistics that we feel it's high time that they actually change that, because some of the research that we have already undertaken with industry, and we're doing a deeper dive into youth perceptions of potential careers in the automotive industry. The term of motor mechanics brings up and conjures up outdated and old-fashioned thinking, and we really see that as one of the key challenges for the industry is to overcome the community perception, perhaps, that hey, to work in the automotive industry is somehow dirty, oily, greasy, and low tech. And as you'll see in a moment, that's actually far from the case. If anyone's had the chance to have a look at some of these service workshops, be they at a dealer or some of the other locations, they really are becoming very, very high end and digitally enabled. And I said the industry is referring to them as automotive technicians, but obviously because I'm pulling this data from government, I have to stay true to that. But where you see those occupations with a little blue exclamation mark next to it is an indicator that they're recognised by the federal government as experiencing skills shortage, which means that the demand for those roles far outstrips the ability currently for the industry to meet them, which, look, for industry is a pain point. But if for people who are looking at career opportunities, job availability and security within job, that would spell obviously a different story for them. It becomes, people who are interested in those careers are highly sought after. Interesting enough, if you have a look at the top three roles, just to give you in a little bit of an idea of the spread, you've got skill level 3, 4, and 5 represented in the top three. So automotive technicians, obviously a skill level 3 job, which means that it's a trade. You need to do an apprenticeship to get it, and that'll be, a trade qualification for life. The second most common job opportunity, so people can work in automotive and not need to service cars or work with vehicles. They can pursue a sales and customer facing occupation, absolutely. And you'll find that that's a skill level 4 role. And what we mean by that is that there are qualifications that they can pursue and that they can absolutely study, even under a traineeship arrangement, but it's not strictly a requirement. So you can get into that kind of a role without having a formal vet qualification. The slight exception being in Queensland, where in order to get a car sales person's ticket, you do need to complete a number of units of competency. And the third one, just again showing you the diversity with in which this industry makes itself available for people, are car detailers, which is a skill level 5 role, which means there's no qualifications required. But again, for some people, that could be a great entry point. It does not mean that they have to stay there. In fact, I know that working with a lot of our stakeholders, people who started in that area have often then been encouraged to take up a trade and an apprenticeship. So they've had an opportunity to get a bit of a feel and a taste of the work environment, and then they can use that to progress. But you can see as you do go down the list, panel beaters is a trade. So the fitters is not a trade, but then vehicle painters is trade, automotive electricians. So it is very trade dominant. And perhaps for the time that we have left, I did want to maybe just spend a little bit of time talking about specifically some of the trade opportunities. But it is important to realize that the automotive industry has everything from managers to advertising and public relations people and IT, like any other industry you'd expect. There's a broad range of opportunities that people can build a career around. But certainly the trade opportunities are probably the most significant. And very quickly on the right-hand side in panel F there, I won't spend too much time there, but the Victoria University, together with Jobs and Skills Australia, put together quite a funky model that designed to project predicted growth at an occupational level over the next 5 and 10 year period. And you can see that car detailers, vehicle painters, and panel beaters are going through a bit of a weird little no man's land, going backwards and then forwards again. So they're probably stagnant. But for a lot of those other positions, including if you have a look at the motor mechanics, automotive technicians, because I've converted you all to the correct speak now, there's some good solid growth. And importantly, and I think I'll just jump to this next slide, is that even without any predicted growth, as we are right now, the Australian Automotive Aftermarket Association, through its own data crunching, has taken the view that we're probably about 40,000 automotive technicians short. And when I say technicians, I will say that will include automotive electricians, heavy diesel, light vehicle, panel and paint, and I'll break down a little bit as to what those qualifications look like for those various streams. But even if we didn't have any growth in the immediate future, we would still need 40,000 just to actually fill the gap. And 12,000 of those are vacant apprenticeship positions just waiting to be filled. And so when you distribute that, as we've seen earlier, quite equally across the states and territories, there should be apprenticeship opportunities available pretty much in any area at the moment for young or mature people who would be keen to enter the automotive industry. As far as earnings go, within a metropolitan setting or within a setting where someone may choose to become a light vehicle technician, which are the average earnings that I've got there, it's not the highest paying job in the world, but certainly there's also a lot of non-cash benefits that tend to come with it as well. But as a qualified technician, you're looking at around $72,000 per annum, and that goes up to about $83,000 when you become a master technician a couple of years down the track. Where those statistics start deviating and where it becomes quite interesting is where people may have done a dual trade, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment with my 10 minutes left, but also where they can take the trade and the vocation that they have commenced within an automotive setting and perhaps take it to somewhere like a mining industry or the MET sector. And sorry, MET stands for Mining Equipment Technology and Services. So where people may end up working for Komatsu or Caterpillar or the like. And the earnings can jump up quite significantly. The data that's been available on the gender equity report by government, and because all of the employers had to submit their various salary data, it is quite interesting that for the automotive repair and maintenance subsector, the bottom two quartiles of earnings fall within those averages that I've listed for you there. The top quartile, so the top 25% of people in this industry are earning an average, so that's an average of $194,000 a year. Now that is calling it as it is, that you're not going to earn $194,000 servicing, the Prius in Joondalup, at Autobahn, right? But what it means is that for those people who have that interest and they've got that choice, you don't have to, but if they wanted to, that is probably indicative of working in the MET sector or the mining industry or the like, or certainly even with heavier vehicles and the like. So the career control is there, and the portability is there, and the ability to extend your earning capacity is quite significant. Surely I needed to come to this at some point. The automotive industry is undergoing a transformation, really unlike any that it has seen in the past 100 years. We are well and truly on quite an exciting journey to an electrified future. And what people may not be aware of is that there's quite a few different technologies presenting themselves. So probably the most popular one and the one that most people may be familiar with is battery electric vehicles. So that's your Teslas that get plugged in. But you also have emerging technology like hydrogen, and either as a fuel cell, where hydrogen is used to charge a battery and then the battery drives an electric motor. So they're still electric vehicles, but you actually use hydrogen to charge the batteries, or even having hydrogen as a direct fuel. So literally a combustion engine like we have at the moment, but rather than burning fuel, you burn hydrogen, and what comes out of the tailpipe is water. A lot of different technology, and hydrogen, for example, is making its market entry, especially with buses and the heavy vehicle fleet. But they still need service and repair, maintenance, and obviously the battery electric and the fuel cell. We're seeing really strong growth and ongoing growth in the passenger vehicle area. So the technology around electric vehicles from a drivetrain point of view already presents a significant leap in regard to the technical knowledge that is required by people who are working in the automotive industry. And this is high-tech gear. It is not like, the old, I don't know, H.J. Holden, carburetor driven. As it is, we know that cars are becoming more high-tech as it is. So on a propulsion and energy storage and driving side of things from electric vehicles, they are bringing new complexity. And by that, we mean complexity also makes the role and the industry more exciting. It really engages people. Yes, there's more that they need to learn, but it goes completely contrary to the perceptions that are out there that somehow working in automotive is like low tech, greasy, dirty. It's increasingly being done through, plugging in and iPads and digital and software updates. And to that point as well, irrespective of the propulsion source, we are seeing some significantly advanced technologies continuing to being rolled out into more mainstream models. As is generally the case, these are some of the technologies that may have found their way into some really, really high-end luxury cars some years back, and now they are becoming very much common sense, or commonplace, I should say. So within the mainstream vehicles, which is awesome for the consumer, us who get to drive these cars. They're designed to keep us safer, they're designed to assist us. But someone has to install, maintain, recalibrate, reprogram these systems. And a recent example, when we were talking with industry, for example, just as way of example, was around auto glaziers. Call O'Brien. A few years ago, if you had a cracked windscreen, you'd have someone come out, even on the roadside, and they would replace your windscreen, and off you went. Now with the cameras and some of the sensor systems that are increasingly part of the your rear vision cluster, and that obviously then beam through the windscreen. When you replace some of these modern windscreens, they actually require some quite complicated recalibration to make sure that those systems are working correctly and that they are working as intended. So, I guess all of this is to say that working in the automotive industry actually sees young and mature people these days now working at the front end of technology, which is really exciting. Okay, 4 minutes. I've got one slide left, so we can land this thing. So I just wanted to quickly. This is not an exhaustive list. Again, our workforce plan in the appendices has all of some really interesting enrollment statistics, including by gender, across all of the training packages that are available. But these ones, I just wanted to point out probably some of the ones that are probably quite key. The first two, the automotive industry does benefit from having some really good pathway programs. These two, the ones that I'm showing, there's a certificate 1 and 2 and automotive vocational preparation, are not the only ones. So again, my caveat is I think there's 14 or 15 certificate 2 programs in the AUR package. But the certificate 2 in automotive vocational preparation is probably the most common one that we're seeing being delivered in schools for people who may be choosing to do a non-ATAR pathway, and it really sets them up beautifully to get a feel of whether a potential future career in the automotive industry may be for them, and that can, of course, then lead to a trade. In this instance, noting that there are many other occupations that are not linked to a trade, but some of the main ones there are listed. Just quickly, if it's got a green little leaf in my best little PowerPoint skills next to it, that is those trades or those occupations have been identified by the federal government as being eligible for the new energy apprenticeship program, which when you couple that with a lot of the fee-free TAFE promotions that are around or incentives that are around. In most instances, I've got to be careful because obviously different states and territories have slightly different approaches. But generally speaking, people can complete an apprenticeship, fee-free, TAFE fee-free, and with a new energy apprenticeship program, avail themselves to up to $10,000 in additional incentives for the apprentice. And you can see I've just tried to link the common occupational title to the relevant qualification. So the light vehicle mechanical technology, the top one there, has got the highest number of enrollments. So within our space, that's probably the one that gets the most enrollments, and that leads to an automotive technician. But then you can see you've got heavy diesel mechanic. Oddly enough, they do still use the word mechanic there. Believe it or not, still in high demand. Yes, with EVs and everything on the way, but still a strong demand, especially within the mining and the heavy vehicle sector. I will call out as well that a number of jurisdictions are increasingly now offering dual trades. And I think just last week in South Australia, they gazetted a dual trade apprenticeship that combines the light vehicle mechanical technology with the automotive electrical technology so that and it only adds one extra year. So it's a 5-year apprenticeship, and you then graduate as both an automotive electrician and an automotive technician, which is really exciting. And right down the bottom there, you'll see that a fairly new qualification. It's only been around for a couple of years, and it got spearheaded by the Canberra Institute of Technology, but it is now being offered in multiple states, including a home state of Western Australia, and that is a Certificate 3 in Automotive Electric Vehicle Technology. And that's really gearing us up to go for that transition where at some point in the future, the bulk of vehicles will be electric. And that qualification is a pure focus on creating an EV technician. So some really exciting opportunities there. And I've got 1 minute left. So that mobile plant technician would be an example where, especially in WA and I'd imagine Queensland and some of the other mining states, you can do that to help service forklifts and elevated work platforms and the like. But certainly that is a qualification used quite heavily by the likes of Komatsu and um, Hastings Deering and Caterpillar and the mining companies to maintain their large mobile fleet. So you're talking dump trucks and dozers and graders, and you can imagine they would earn quite a lot. So that's it with like 30, oh no, not even 10 seconds left. But hopefully in the time that we had, that's given you maybe just enough to give you some ideas of what we consider some really exciting opportunities for young and mature people in the industry. That QR code there does take you to our website. You'd be absolutely welcome to subscribe to our newsletter or just follow us on our socials to see what we're up to. And like I said, hopefully on the 17th of June, we're hoping to officially launch our 2024 workforce plan, which will have even a lot more data in it. And my passing remark is that one of the projects that we are working on at the moment is actually doing a deeper dive into youth perceptions into automotive. So that'll be really exciting once we finish that, hopefully before the end of the year. And that'll shed some real lights in regard to what we need to do together with the likes of the National Career Institute to better position this industry for consideration by young people.
Thank you, Jan, very much. You did an amazing job getting through an enormous amount of information in 30 minutes. So thank you very much for that.
No
Um,
problem.
for people that are joining us, just to let you know that a recording of this webinar will be made available in the weeks following National Careers Week. It'll be on the National Careers Week website. So if you want to go back and revisit some of the statistics and information that Jan has shared with us this morning, it'll be there for you. I do know, Jan, some schools like to use it to show their students as well. So I think there's a lot of information in there which would be helpful for students as well. So on behalf
Become
of the
famous.
career,
Oh, I would have done
yes,
my hair a bit nicer.
on behalf, on behalf of the Career Industry Council and, of course, National Careers Week, thank you very much. Have a great day 4, everybody, and we'll speak to everybody soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye bye.